Well, we're going to do a little tour with Heidi Harden here. Painter, writer, what else are you?
That's it, painter, writer.
Person extraordinaire.
Yeah.
A real Renaissance woman.
And this is my exhibition called Oklahoma is Not Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Soul Retrieval Journey 2016. And it's called, there's a subtitle, Recalling ACEs, which is Adverse Childhood Experiences, Seeking Silver Linings.
Mm-hmm.
So this show is about 5 events in my past when I was 10 that happened sequentially, like over a period of days.
Mm-hmm.
In my relationship with my mom and my stepdad. My mom and dad divorced when I was in the 2nd grade, and my mother remarried when I was in the 5th grade, 6th grade. And so we moved to a small town, and if we'll go walk around, I'll introduce you to that first town we visited.
Oh, good.
It's called Fairfax, Oklahoma. So right over here, at the beginning, this is the beginning of these sorrowful tales that I have only now been able to speak about because they were so difficult and overwhelming for me as a child. And my brothers and I went back to Fairfax in August of this year, and my brothers and I are called the 3 little ones in my family because we were all born in the same week of the same month, about 3 years apart. So we hadn't celebrated our birthdays together since I was 10 until this past August when we all came to Oklahoma City. And we took this soul retrieval journey going back to where we were separated at age 10. Chris was 12 and Mark was 9. And you'll meet them down the road here.
Okay.
So this town, Fairfax in Oklahoma, is the home of Maria and Marjorie Tallchief. They are 2 of 5 Native American prima ballerinas in Oklahoma.
Right.
And because they came from this town, I was very aware that they lived there. I never met them, I never saw them. But because I had studied with another of the 5 Native American ballerinas as a 5 and 6 and 7-year-old, her name was Yvonne Chateau, and her partner Miguel Tarakoff in Oklahoma City, I had studied with those 2. And so when I heard that Maria and Marjorie were in this town, I thought, oh, it'll be a safe place. At least I'll be able to think about them. So that's how we start. And this is for every 2 panels in this exhibition, 2 long, narrow panels like this, there's a book and a story that goes with it.
A separate book for each one.
For each pair.
Oh,
So
each pair.
it
Okay.
starts with this pair that introduces people to my exhibition is called the Powwow, and the story that goes with it says Book 2, Friday night, May 15th, 1964.
So this is the other in the pair.
Yeah, this is the second panel in this pair, and this is the Hamilton football field where the Native Americans in that area in northeastern Oklahoma would have their powwows. And this was the first powwow that I was ever invited to attend, and knew somebody who was dancing. And I had just met one of the dancers in my, would have been 6th grade class. Her name was Sylvia Irons. So this is the story of hope and anticipation and a sense of looking forward to new relationships. And I felt, when I got to the powwow, very overwhelmed by the difference of people, because I'm in Oklahoma City, I never had seen people of color. And
What is Powell? Well, it's related to Indian.
Native Americans.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is a neck of the woods in Oklahoma where it's primarily Native Americans, and so some of my best friends that I was making in school there were Native Americans. In fact, this story starts out, I'll just read the first bit of it. Let's see here. This story is dedicated to Chief Seattle and his people. It was written in loving memory of Jackie Sue, Sylvia, and the tall chief sister. It is printed in deep appreciation for my sisters, Kay and Lynn. And the first paragraph is, Sylvia Irons is a Blackfoot Indian. She is tall, thin, and cinnamon colored. Her hair is jet black, shiny, straight, and long. Her eyes are black-brown. She has perfect white teeth that glow when she smiles, which is often. She is quiet like me, her quiet is a hand for me to hold in this new school. Her speech is soft and important. When she offers it, others always turn to hear what she has to say. So she was an important connection for me, and this story sort of sets the tone of joyful incorporation of new friends and new cultures and learning, and I felt the deep sorrow of what had happened to the Native Americans, that they all were put on reservations, or at least the 5 civilized tribes were marched into Oklahoma and kept there. And so to know one personally and for her to show an interest in me and be kind to me was very important. She invited me to come and watch her dance.
When did you come across the idea of doing this very long landscape format? It's intriguing that...
I've always liked that format, but I haven't used it in many, many years. When I was just out of graduate school, I had done one painting that was 4 feet high and 64 feet long.
Wow.
So I had done this kind of long, narrow panel that was contiguous and seamless. And it was a story of my trying to figure out who I was and what my role was in the world as a painter. And there were dancers in that. There was a ballerina in that series. It was called Snow White Meditating Babylon. And so I also know that this format it mirrors what I've been learning in my PTSD recovery from childhood trauma,
I see.
which I've been doing for the last 18 months at Kaiser. The window of tolerance, because when you have adverse childhood experiences, you either dissociate and flee mentally, or you fight, you stand and fight, or you freeze. And I've sort of been in all of those areas with respect to this sequence of traumas. But now that I'm more grounded and more present with traumas that had happened earlier between my mom and my dad, I could have a window of tolerance to paint these.
I see.
And I had written these stories in 2004 and could just shut the computer down on them and never looked at them. So these are unedited. I was in a writing class with Alan Kaufman for people who had survived childhood trauma, and when I wrote them out, they so freaked me out and so scared me that I didn't look at them again until this year, in October, when I came home from this birthday party and celebration of my mother's life and her gift of her body. We went to Oklahoma City to have our birthdays together, my brothers and I, and to attend a luncheon that the Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation had done for her, because she had donated her body to medical research, and we got to meet the doctors, or future doctors, who were going to learn anatomy from her body. And so that was a fascinating metaphor for everything about this experience, because she's been in a deep freeze in a locker for over a year, and then they finally pulled her out, and we get to meet the people who are now dissecting her body. So the two paintings in this room and the smaller panels, the long panels that go together, are of a raft trip that we took together with my mom, Chris, Mark, and I, and my stepdad, Mel. And we all nearly died on this river. We started on this, if you look at that painting closely, it's this bridge that goes over the Salt Creek, which is where we launched the raft. We built it in our backyard and carried it in the pickup truck to the riverbed, and launched in the Salt Creek around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And by the time we made it to the Arkansas River and saw the immense currents that were running so quickly and swiftly that it was pulling our poles, our guide poles out of our hands, and eventually we get caught up in this sand suction equipment. There was a big cantilever bridge that we went under the Arkansas, and this machine was huge at the time. This is what it happened in '64, and now it's 2016, so many years, like decades ago. This thing was down like 200 feet. The river was down 200 feet because the Arkansas has been dammed. And so now what was way up on the cliff, this machine had a big cone that went down into the base of the bottom of the river to dredge sand for making glass. And we got caught up in all these guide wires. The guide wires at that time were down into the water, and it raked all of our supplies into the wires raked, and we ended up right at the cone and feeling the vibrations of the suction. And it was a very terrifying experience, but lo and behold, we were...
You survived.
We survived. And I've written a very troubled but fascinating journey about how we got out of that. And these other paintings are more referential to the story, because I talk about the sun and the moon and calling on all those forces of the elements to save us.
Now, this is called a collage, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And
that's a work of on paper in tempera paint. And the collage materials are above and below. And here's one more collage that gives the sense of having been drawn into Jonah's the belly of the whale, and facing down death, because we truly nearly all died. And I just feel very grateful that now I can write about it in a way that shows that we're as creative beings, we can turn these incidents, traumatic incidents, into art. And that's what I guess all the great storytellers and painters have always done, and I'm just now learning to trust that process. My stepdad was very unhappy with my brothers and I because we complained about the raft trip. So he said we were too soft, we should go on a survival test. And so he blindfolded us and put us in the back of his pickup truck and drove us out into the middle of who knew where, and left us there for 3 days with no food and water. And so that's what this is about, the bleakness of the open spaces and not knowing where you are, and then, you know, what you find of interest in those places, which in our case was this bull and his watering hole and the trees and the little places that you might go to seek shelter and so forth. But that's another story here. This one's called Book 4. It's early summer 1964. So all of these hopefully will be on the website, and anybody who wants to hear the stories. But basically a cowboy came and said, "You guys can't be out here. This bull has killed a man." And so my parents had to come and pick us up. And then the next night is, so this is, well, Friday or Saturday night, between this event of the going home from the survival test, the next Saturday night, my stepdad beats up my mother for the first time, and I call the police, and they believe him and leave when he says that I'm lying. And he grounds me off the phone and for 6 months, and goes into the kitchen and pulls everything out of the kitchen, refrigerator, all the drawers, just throws it all on the ground and tells me to clean it up as he rapes and beats my mother throughout the night. And I had to clean it up with bleach because he said, "I'm the health commissioner for this county and my house needs to be clean and you're going to take care of it." So the next morning we get up to go to church, and this is the road that we took. So this one's called The Church, this story, these two panels here, it's called The Church. And he had a new car, and he drove that car about 120 miles an hour, and we were, just like in flight most of the time because you can see it's very hilly. And you can see, just the agony of it, because he was insisting that my mother sing Summertime over and over again as she was sobbing behind her sunglasses and her broken lip and black eyes.
Now, are all these painted from memory, or did you have reference photos for any of them?
When we went back in August of this 2016, just a month or two ago, I took photos when my brother
I see.
and I were
Okay.
there. So these are in the present, and the stories were written in 2004, and the paintings were done, in October. So it's a way of bringing my past and my present together. And as I was painting, I was listening, because I have a reader that will read my stories to me. And so as I was painting, I was listening to my own stories to help integrate the experience and the devastation of these events. And this is book 1, actually, which was painted in 1982 for an exhibition in Los Angeles at my gallery, one of my first solo shows. It's an excerpt from Albrecht Dürer, and it was a prophetic postulation of what I was going to have to go through to bring my child through the bloody river and over the rocks to come out of the shadows and I was being guided by my inner child to do that work.
So that's 1982, and you did that pencil work at that point?
Pencil.